Yay! We're actually together.
We're in a room together. How long has this been?
Too long.
Oh
Too long.
my gosh. Hi, everybody. Hi, Mike.
How's it going?
Katie. Sue, it's so nice to see you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, without
I
masks,
know,
exactly.
I know. And to our lovely clients who are probably watching this, you're probably watching because you forgot what we look like. Or our new clients wanted to see what we look like from the eyes down.
That's a good
Right?
That's so true.
They haven't seen us. So it is so nice. Thanks for tuning in. You know, we thought that given everything that's been going on for the last 2 years and kind of the state of you know, the world, we wanted to share what, you know, real estate's like during the pandemic and kind of give you an overview of the state of the market. And so I sort of just did some quick introductions there, but we've got Mike and Katie and Sue and Sarah, so not everybody knows each
And
other.
Lauren.
And
And
me,
Lauren. And Lauren.
thank you. And we are the Mills team, of course. And yeah, this is so nice. It's so nice to be with everybody.
I know
Absolutely.
we the first like almost year of COVID, we were so good. We were so afraid that if we were together and one of us got sick, that we would all get sick. That we literally did not see each other.
Yeah.
We didn't see our admin staff. It was
I know
horrible.
our clients probably remember the Brady Bunch, you know, videos that we sent out because we're all on Zoom, and
Yeah.
you know, it's nice to get together. So yeah, we thought we'd kind of share what the pandemic has, you know, how it's changed buying and selling in real estate, and kind of talk about, you know, where we're at today with, you know, low inventory and what's going on, and then of course multiple offers, which everybody's kind of interested in hearing about. So it was nice. We were just sharing a few stories before we got started, and we were talking about our first listing once the, you know, state of emergency was declared 2 years ago, and kind of, you know, we didn't really know
Yeah.
what would
So do you remember
happen.
that on Fairfield?
Yes, it was crazy. And you know, we had to literally, you know, we have our full staging business, and we literally had to come in and unload the truck. Do you guys
Well, do you remember
this?
why we had to unload the truck though?
Oh,
Do you
yes.
remember
Because you're-
driving down? I'll never
Oh,
forget
yes.
driving down the DVP. It was like a ghost town.
That's
Remember,
true.
there was no
Nobody-
traffic.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
There was
like,
no plane in
that's
the air.
true.
Yeah.
It was
Nothing.
scary,
Yeah.
But do you remember
actually.
why we were all driving down there? Because we got the emergency SOS from Victoria State
Oh, yeah.
because the mover arrived with a helper that wasn't masked, and we were all terrified. Like we just were absolutely all terrified. So she put out the SOS card. So the mover sent her the helper away, and they
We all
literally
came. We all came en masse, typical Mills team kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but
All
remember,
hands on
we had, of course, the client. I mean, we were scared for the client.
Yeah.
We didn't want the client to get sick. We didn't
Yeah.
want any of the team to get sick. So masks, gloves. We had so much like sanitation stuff. We basically put everything on the lawn. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
All the neighbors were looking at us going from their windows. They wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
What are they doing on the lawn? And then we wiped it down to get it in. And then any surface we touched, we then wiped again.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just didn't even know how it would evolve and how
Yeah.
it would work. But you know, it was a great news story. I mean, they did really well. We were moving out of province, and there was a real time crunch for them because they were moving out of province, and everything was saying all the borders are shutting down, right? So we were like,
Yeah.
are they even going to be able to get their truck through with
Yeah.
their furniture? Yeah, that was.
You
It
think-
seems like so long ago, but
I
it was
know.
really only 2
Well,
years ago.
and you think of
Crazy.
those how we just got caught. Like all of a sudden, COVID became a huge issue. We had sellers that needed to buy because they'd already
sold.
Yeah, they already sold. They needed to buy something, and then probably way more stressful. We'd had people that had bought and they needed to sell.
Right.
So it
And
was
we had
just
no sense of where the market was going to go. We
No.
knew there was that window of those people that had to do something. But beyond that, I remember
Right.
we were having the conversations like, are we ever going to sell another house? Like, what are
Yeah,
people
like,
going to
We have
do?
to redo our projections for the year. We're not going. We're,
Yeah,
how
we
is
really
the
literally
team going
didn't
to
know.
survive, right?
Yeah.
None of us knew. I
Well,
mean,
remember when they put out that state of emergency, Ford put out the list or whatever, and we were scanning down the list to say, is real estate considered an essential
Yes.
service? And like, oh, thank
Thank
God we can
God.
work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we can
Now how do we do
keep
it?
Going.
Yeah.
I know. Well, and so like we've come so far since
Oh
then.
my
Like,
gosh.
I mean, you know, we were one of those industries who kind of just kept working, and
never
other
stopped.
than the gloves and the masks and the sanitizer, we kind of carried on.
Yeah.
I think that's what always even today, like we get a call. Thankfully, we're so blessed that we have clients call us and recommend us, which is amazing all the time. And client says, well, how does this work? Like, can you actually show me a house? And I say, yes, don't worry, I absolutely can. And in fact, we've been showing houses for 2 years. In fact, real estate was what people could do during the pandemic, and therefore, as a result, we've never really stopped, which is amazing.
Right.
But yes, from ghost town days of March of 2020 to now we're back in traffic again, and it's crazy time again. You know, it's an amazing, what a 2-year cycle is.
Absolutely.
And even just the process of how we actually show a property now, and that everything's booked online, and there can only be one appointment
And
at a time.
the 30-minute window,
And the
right?
30-minute window. And I
Yes.
think really serious people have been looking since the start of the pandemic. But these aren't the days of Saturday open houses with
was
tire
just gonna
kickers
say.
that just, want to spend their afternoon looking at houses. Like those, if you want to call them potential buyers, like nobody was going out for just the fun of it.
Yeah. Right.
They've been very serious buyers and sellers. And I think that's really helped to contribute to this
Fueling the
amazing
fire.
market. Yeah.
And don't you even think just the whole standard of the industry has raised to a certain extent?
Absolutely.
Like we've been doing, floor plans and photos and home inspections and everything for years and years and years. But it feels like the industry is kind of caught up in many ways, and it's like
pushed them to do it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's pushed them, which is
Right.
great.
And
Even
the
us.
3D tours where now people will do so much more online and really determine, like, if this isn't an appropriate property, I'm not going to take my family to go see it. Like, we're going to really study all of the aspects first and then really narrow it down. So what's online, the photography, the aerial photos, everything, and that's become even more critical.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think even us jumping on social media more so, like if you really think about before the pandemic, what we were doing on social media and now, if you look at that, you put that on a chart, like you would see some serious
Like this
improvement.
video,
right.
our first time ever, which is why we're drinking. we hope you guys like this.
and because, and dragging the dinosaurs like me, kicking and screaming. So yes, no.
Oh,
You
it's so
say
true.
the 30 minutes though, but Mike's experience, like in Durham in particular, which everything outside of Toronto proper has been even more explosive than 416, which is hard to believe, really. I think for all of us, grasping that concept is incredible. But having said that, like 15-minute appointments, like literally 15 minutes. I call it speed dating, like showing houses, like it's like speed dating. You got a 15-minute window, and you're only going to get in once. And now I will say the caveat, it has slightly changed, and we'll maybe get into a bit of that. But even January of this year again, it was 15 minutes and see it, and you have to decide because we're not getting back in. There's no other blocking that's going to be available.
I would visit like a winter coat in a department store more times than I would a house that I'm about to buy in 15 minutes. Like I go back and see it again. And
For $1 million,
now,
you too can buy this after
Right.
15
And
minutes.
it's, I think, so changed how we manage on the selling side as well. I was thinking of one, Sue, recently that we were talking about where these appointments are booked out, and now, we could talk about the whole issue with offer dates and preemptive offers, but
we'll talk about that in a minute.
you had the situation where someone was, trying to push their buyer in early to sell, and, you had the conversation with the sellers to say, we've set Monday as the offer date, this many people have been through, but there's still 8 people that haven't been through yet. And I think, a decade ago, we would have just said offer date's Monday. There's still 8 people to come. We're not even going to consider that. But you personally got on the phone with every single one of those agents and said, if this is the perfect spot, how likely are they to do an offer? What exactly are they pre-approved up until? Like you were able to rule out those 8 people. So then when you were talking to the sellers, with confidence, you could say, this is the situation. This is our recommendation. Right now, the person trying to make the offer wants to grab it. And we know they're the best person right now. So it's just so fascinating on that side, how much has changed in terms of how we manage that process.
Yeah, it's so true. And I was helping a buyer the other week, and we're through the worst part, I think, of the COVID and the virtual showings and everything. But what was interesting was she was actually out of town, and she I did the FaceTime in the space, and her boyfriend came and gave his approval. But she put in the offer and got it without even seeing it. And there's so much technology that she was able to rely on floor plans and virtual tours and photos and everything. Yeah. And so it really has changed.
Yeah, and I think it's just the beginning. Like I think we're going to see a whole new change in terms of technology that we're going to be able to use and access. So
yeah, for sure.
more
exciting time
Yeah.
for
It
you guys.
Yeah. We'll see.
And for those of you who don't know, Michael's my son, so I'm very
Oh, yes, we should say
at
that.
the table with
And
him
we should
and
also
across
say that
from
there's one other member of the team who isn't here, which is your dad,
yeah.
right?
So our
Alex.
91-year-old dad, who is actually just flown to Arizona to work on a development project down there that he's
God
had for
bless
40 years. Alone, flew down alone,
91.
staying at the ranch. Oh my God! Anyways, that's a whole different podcast. That's a whole video.
We have a lot to live up to, that's
Bring
for
your mom in
sure.
to talk about that too.
Oh yeah, my mom's thrilled about that. Yeah, I was saying to my mom the other day when she was so upset about my dad flying and how was he going to get there by himself. And I said, Mom, when I'm 91 years old, I'm going to be in a chair with a sippy cup. So just be glad that he's out there doing his thing.
That's right. Oh my gosh. So what do you guys think? I mean, obviously the market is very busy right now. I think of all these words: zany,
Crazy.
Like, there's some stuff going on.
Yeah.
But there's really right now there's a discrepancy between the number of properties that are for sale and the number of buyers who are out there, right? Like,
that's right. Like they talk about basically being the lowest months of inventory ever. So if there's less than 1 month of inventory in the city of Toronto right now. So if no other properties came on the market, and everything would be sold in a month. And normally 2 to 3 months is a good balanced market. So I think that's really where we've seen the price escalation. Like, prices have gone up 48% since the start of COVID. In 2 years, 48% in the GTA. Now, some areas are higher than others, but who would have ever thought of that at the beginning of COVID when we were sitting there wondering whether another house would be sold all year? But in hindsight, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
People have been home. They've, by and large, many people have kept their jobs. Many homeowners have been able to keep their jobs. They haven't been able to spend money. They haven't been able to travel. They haven't been buying new clothes.
Right. And then interest rates, right?
Yeah, and
just being so low too.
Exactly. So jobs are stable. They've saved more money than they've ever saved before. Home is more important than it's ever been before. The walls are closing in when you're homeschooling your kids. And so in hindsight, it makes total sense that the market absolutely went crazy in COVID. But I don't think any of us ever kind of could see that at the beginning.
Well, and the thing is, at the beginning too, it wasn't that way for condos. Like downtown,
condos just changed
it was
overnight,
so
really, right?
different.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right, because the tenants, unfortunately, are largely the people that did lose their jobs. Like the people so hardworking, the hourly workers, the entertainment industry, the restaurant businesses, and unfortunately, so many of those tenants, had to leave their condos downtown, and the investors started to panic a little bit.
And then right at the same time, Airbnb wasn't being allowed, and
people didn't want that communal space anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed, like the number of calls I know we've all had, like through most of COVID, but just that call that says, well, when we bought this, we thought your space was absolutely fine. And, we always, as a team, I know we always talk about long-term and, you sure this is going to give you enough growth? We really want you to stay here a long time because transactional costs are high. And but now people need 2 offices and they've had a child and they've got the COVID baby and the COVID dog maybe.
Right.
And they're now
And the Peloton. Where does that go?
The Peloton.
The Peloton's in there.
And actually we sold, we were very fortunate last night. We sold a condo last night. So beautiful couple, just lovely client. And they bought this great condo down in sort of the Fort York area in January of 2020.
That was like first COVID. Yeah.
Right. So
right
COVID
at the
was
beginning.
just being talked about. And I actually do remember we did go in masks. And, but anyway, so they are both have great jobs and they knew they were planning to get married. They were going to have a baby. They wanted to have a baby relatively quickly. So I remember standing there in that space saying, and it's a good square footage, but I like saying, you sure like with the baby, this space will be fine? Oh, yes, absolutely. So fast forward, and now we've gone through all of COVID and they have a Peloton. They have a dog.
That's so funny because they totally do have a Peloton.
And they have a baby, the cutest baby ever. Like I've sent you guys pictures of him so many times. And but anyway, they called me up and said, you know what? I think we need to change. Like we need more space. We're now both being told we are basically working from home.
Oh, really?
And we might go in for the odd meeting, but we basically, so we can't do this anymore. And the best part of this is if they had called us, really, right, last year, they called us.
It would have been a loss, probably.
guys, like, yes, like you're going to be underwater. There's no way. And fast forward, last night, 5 offers. They got almost 175,000 more than an investment they made in January 2020. Incredible. I know, just like fantastic. I mean, we're dancing up and down up and down with joy. Like so happy for them.
I just remember that first COVID summer taking buyers around looking at condos and thinking, I can't believe how much is available. You know, there were so many options. Buyers had all the choice in the world.
Right.
And now today, condos too. There are very few of them. This is a perfect example. 5 offers. Like we're seeing that, you know, all throughout the city right now. There's just so little.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting to look forward because we don't really see that changing anytime soon. Like even the government is trying with the, you know, they're committing to build new units, but that can take 10 years. Like supply takes a long time to come to fruition, and there's just so much.
And you know, and
immigration, right? 1.5 million.
Like,
where do they go? Like, there's nowhere to.
Exactly.
We have a housing shortage now. Like 10 years, it's like terrifying to think that.
And that is exactly why we
garden
this
suites,
price escalation, right? When you think up 48% in 2 years. But I always think, you know, it's the most simple supply and demand, like 101 economics that there is. It's absolute supply and demand. So, you know, bigger demand than there is supply, prices are going to go up. You know, bigger supply, and you know, and we always say to people that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy too, because when the market is strong like this and there's no inventory, people know that they need to buy first before they can sell. So they don't put their house on the market till they find something, but you can't find anything because nobody's put their house on the market. And then the exact opposite happens if people get fearful, like in April of 2017 with the Fair Housing Plan, and you know things kind of turned overnight. That you know people then get fearful and think, well, you know, we know for sure we can buy, but we're not sure we can sell, so we better sell first. Then all of a sudden you get this inventory up and the demand goes up. But it's just such a fascinating,
but I think that's what we always have to look at is that long term. Because, you know, if we look at the last 20 years, the last 40 years, even if say 20 years, if the average is, you know, 6.7% increase a year. And I love looking at that graph we have because over time it's absolutely going up. I mean, we're talking to people now saying, I have a 5-year-old and I'm thinking about buying a condo because I'm afraid they won't be able to get into the market when they're 20.
Oh my gosh, we're totally doing that for Jay's kids. Like,
and it's so true. And even though like we think, well, you don't know where your kids are going to live. Maybe they'll go to school in England and then they'll want to live in Chicago. But what are the chances that 10 years from now,
in any place,
having that investment in Toronto that you've rented out and the tenant is helping to pay your mortgage, what are the chances 10 years from now, any of us wouldn't be thrilled to have that investment and that, you know, increase in equity. So that's what's so exciting about it. And I think that's what's really tuned all of us in through all of this is that each situation is so specific. And you know, what's your time frame? Because I love, you know, Chris Latham has that great saying, the only time you're going to lose money in real estate is if you have to sell. So if we have someone coming to us and they're saying, you know, I might be transferred in the next year and not really, I mean, that's going to be a very different conversation. Or if, you know, if you're at the end of your sort of investment and you're thinking in the next 12, you know, 18 months, we're probably going to sell the family home and buy something in Florida, that's a very different conversation that someone says, you know, one way or another, I'm going to be investing here for the next 20 years. So that's what's sort of so exciting is that every one of those scenarios is so different.
And that's why, I mean, the client, I'm just going to go back to that point, Kate, that you made. So Chris Latham, who, just in case our clients don't know, he's our broker, and the Latham family owns Royal LePage Signature, the best brokerage in the business by far. And we get access to this Urbanation, who's the basically the best data research company around real estate. So the banks and all the whole investment industry, that's who they go to, the developers. Anyway, today's stat, so back exactly to what you're saying. So we are at usually over 2 years, so 2 years of COVID, we would see that 6% roughly growth a year, so 13% growth. We're at 48% price increase over 2 years.
Isn't that astounding?
Like, just think about that again, back to what we said in the beginning. Like, if you had sat there and said, are you guys going to see prices increase 48% in 2 years? We would have all said, ha ha ha, in our dreams. That it's going to go down maybe 48%. We have no idea.
And here we are. It's so important, like, to get in when you can. Like, and that's, God, I've told that, especially first-time home buyers.
For sure.
All the time.
Right, it's time in the market.
It's time in, absolutely.
Right.
And there really isn't a bad time. It's just what are you going to do within that time, how long are you going to be there? So
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And that's what we say. You alluded to earlier, like the transaction costs are high, so you want to make a good buy. You want to make sure it's something that you can stay in for a while, and that there won't be a specific time where you absolutely have to sell. And exactly what Chris says, it's it's not timing the market, it's time in the market, and that's really and if you're at the end of that time horizon, or maybe if you've seen prices go up that much and you're going to be selling in the next year, then you might seriously think about selling today. But like Mike, I mean, you've had such an interesting experience because poor Mike's our COVID real estate guy, like our COVID baby.
He's our COVID baby. He's not a baby, but
like
we can't see you.
No.
We can talk to you on
I
Zoom.
know, but we couldn't even you couldn't even shadow with us because we weren't even in person in things. But you've done such a fabulous job, and you've taken so many of your young friends and really guided them really well. So I mean, you guys, we could talk for the rest of the thing about the stories you've had with the experiences with your clients, but like just think of your one good friends and like how many times they had to try.
No, and I think it's first of all, I'm lucky to have you guys teaching me. I mean, where I am today, but it wouldn't be without you guys. But I mean, it's just more so explaining to them how things are in the current state, right? So it was more so just informing them and keeping them, like informed.
Like hit the pulse, right?
Keep the ball rolling. So, but which is a learning experience for me as well. So.
Pressure cooker environment to be in.
Absolutely.
First trying to navigate COVID, and then the market exploding, and then educating buyers is always tough.
Right.
Even if they haven't sold, for 20 years, and then they're going to buy, and then they're like, well, what do you mean I have to go in 300,000 over the asking price? Like that doesn't make any sense because they didn't come from that. But you're trying to get first-time buyers to do that.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing, I was thinking about this today as we were driving here, so I'm like, what the hell? I think if anything, the last 2 years, it's like, this is your time to shine. Like on the buy end, this is what separates good realtors that knows what they're talking about, giving the right advice from realtors that are just in it, So, like that's really like.
Well, and just think of the friends that you've gotten into the market over the last couple of years, and how much they've already appreciated. And if they didn't trust you and they didn't get into the market, it would be so much harder now.
Right.
So it's
I've had a lot of great conversations like that, and it's just. And they're my friends too. So
thank God.
It's a bit of easier conversation. I could be a little more like tough on them, saying, no, we shouldn't. We shouldn't. I mean, it's a little bit different with people that I don't know, but
So I have a question for everybody then.
Can I say one more thing there?
Yes, of course.
I think for me personally, like that's a huge difference that I see between now and the market in 2016. And there's lots of people talking about how in many ways they feel similar. But I know for me, in hindsight looking back, I was a bit conservative at the beginning of that increase in average price. And I know we all had the right intent of we didn't want anyone to kind of overpay. And we were looking at the comparables that are already sold, and we're saying like, if you want to get it, this is what you're going to have to pay.
Right.
But nothing sold this high. And so I think the big difference for me over the past 2 years is that once the market really did start to take off, I was much more aggressive about saying, if you don't have to buy now, and we support that completely, but if you want to buy in the next 3 or 6 months, let's do it now, because it's really going to be worse later. And we saw that with people who hesitated, and maybe at one point for $1 million, they might have bought a detached house in North York. And, 12 months later, they were looking at townhouses in Oshawa for the exact same price.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was really where we sometimes had to be really tough with people. But we're saying, if this is what you want, like, let's do this, because.
And that's what I love I've heard you say a bunch, Lauren, to clients, is like, we're almost like, we are brutally honest, but I think you absolutely have to be in this market.
Right.
Like you can't leave anything out, and giving the right expectations to them, I think is important, because I say this to some of my clientele, like, there will be surprises, like every offer night, every house, it's
so
completely
many
different.
situations.
So as long as you lay it out to them, and we know what your hard numbers are, we work within those, that's all that really matters. You just got to put everything in the best light beforehand, and we're ready and prepared, and just kind of let things fall as they may.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Well, and that's a really good point. Like, I wanted to just ask you guys, get your take on, kind of multiple offers for buyers and sellers right now, because, it's very different, than other times in the market for sure. And, what you just mentioned about what I say to clients sometimes is, I usually say for that first offer, it's going to, I might tell you what you need to do, but it's really hard for that first offer, for that first buyer to say, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to pay that big price that you're telling me to.
And you're better than anyone I know at guessing within like $1,000 of what 10 offers of what it's going to sell for. No, it's
lucky, but no, we try to be analytical. We all try to be really analytical, but a lot of buying decisions are made on emotion, and so
Well, if you think even like some of the sales we had in January, I just kind of wrote them down because they're pretty staggering. Like we had one in East York where we listed kind of that critical just under $1 million mark, because over $1 million you need 20% down, you need $200,000 down payment at $999, you need a 7.5% down payment, so you need $75,000. So so many people kind of caught at that million. But anyway, so and I don't even love how the whole industry has evolved into this kind of setting a low price and an offer date, and it's just,
but you have to do it. Otherwise, that's
it confuses the issue, right? If you don't do it that way,
like you almost have to be.
Sorry, Sue, not to cut you off, but even Chris was saying to like the whole signature team this morning that if you're not at least 20% probably below what you feel it's going to sell for, you're going to scare people off. They're going to think they're expecting to pay $200,000-$300,000 more. So don't shoot yourself in the foot or the client in the foot by listing too high. And that's where, like, I think, like, you have to be on the pulse, right? So if you're not on the pulse of knowing what's going on in each of these micro markets, like, you really, really have to look, know that data. And so to your point, I agree with you. It's uncomfortable, but, it's hard for sometimes those sellers that have been around in their houses for 20 years. And we say, well, we think the value is here, but, we want you to list it here. We think this is when they look at us like, that doesn't make sense. And you have to say, but this is how the market is working right now.
Good or bad or indifferent.
Whether we want to get you our job is to get you the best price possible. So we know this works, it's proven, and here's, 10 examples or whatever, and you've got
exactly. Because if you listed at market value and you set an offer date, the buyer's expectation is that you want more.
Exactly.
And then nobody will come to the table. So you have to, I really don't like this strategy, but it's just the way it's the way of the world now. So you have two choices. You can still price your house at market value, obviously, but then you can't set an offer date
as well.
And then but then the problem is the market is so quick and so instantaneous that the first one or two buyers it hasn't even hit the overnight run of the MLS system. You have an offer on your table that night for full price and you haven't exposed it. Sellers are paying us a lot of commission. We want to give them that full exposure and make sure that no stone is unturned. We want to make sure we've hit the social media and we've got the floor plans out and we've got the home inspections out to people. So, unfortunately, it would be great if we could set it at market value and set an offer date, and the world would work that way, but it just hasn't gone that way.
I love what Sarah said too, that we have to have our pulse on that because, in the last 30 years, I've never seen that change so quickly.
Right.
Like we used to have a plan and it was pretty set for like a decade. Like we're going to go just under market value.
Yes.
We're going to have all the information available.
Yeah.
We're going to do a pre-listing home inspection. We're going to set an offer date and we, no matter what, are sticking to that date. Like try to make an offer early, doesn't matter. We are not going to do it. And there was probably a decade where we are not going off that plan.
And very proven results.
Absolutely, because it worked. And we absolutely knew it worked.
Yep.
Whereas now, literally week to week, neighborhood to neighborhood, a different strategy is needed, and we have to be so adaptable because
resale, like homes, condos
are different.
Now rentals, like Mike, God bless him, is he's doing a lot of rentals. A lot of his good friends and some of our clients are need to rent, and Michael's competing on rentals all the time now too, and the expectation of the landlord has gone up, and like every single part of the market, it just changes, as you say, so quickly, and you have to be like.
So you find my heart's racing. Like that's the exciting part, but it's hard.
I know. Thank God we have each other to talk to about this stuff.
I know.
But the brainstorming and
to share
about our
all
conference call and just like, okay, this is what happened, and this is what we did, and what did anyone else have any other ideas?
We do these like Monday and Friday morning calls every morning at 9, but we just say what happened last night. Like last night, Sarah, like this tells you the whole market. So 5 offers in on the condo, people you just bought a year and a half earlier. one of our administrators bought their kind of dream retirement home.
Oh, and dream client, by the way, first house we showed, and they bought it, and they won in multiple offers, 5 offers.
Yes.
So I was like,
I'm pretty sure you had a big part to play in that.
And then when the agent said congratulations, Michael was with me to help because we were navigating these 3 different scenario offers, and she said congratulations, and I'm like, Did she actually say congratulations? Like, we got it? It was so exciting. But yeah, so
that's
sorry.
a really good word.
No.
When you're representing a buyer and you see that phone ring and you see that agent's name on your phone and you're like, I don't know if I want to answer this. I'm so scared.
Because there are 12 other people who are getting a bad call.
And they're like, congratulations, and I start weeping. I'm like, oh my God.
Wait, let me call the dog.
And then I was the client, our administrator that who has worked with our team for almost 20 years too. I knew her husband wasn't with her, so I called her and I said, can you get your husband on the line too? They want to talk something else. They want to go through something else with us. And she's like, okay. And so then she gets him on the phone, and I said, yeah, she just wanted to run one more thing by us, and she wanted to say congratulations.
Oh, that's good.
It's such
that's so good.
I mean, we live with our clients, like,
yeah. I know.
Day in, day out, the losses, like we lost one last night too. We tried a bully offer, and a really good bully offer. And, I kudos to my client. They wanted to try. The agent said they were willing to try. We gave it a great shot. I mean, they're working all day, right? And I'm like, go get a bank draft, and we need an updated letter. And because we always do letters for, the days of presenting, which we all love.
I know.
And there's no emotional connection. So we try with a letter, and we got that call to say, sorry, the seller's looking for way more. And again, you just sit there and say, wow, way more. And that's going to be an interesting, as we now move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When sellers have seen these big prices and now expectations are here.
Right. And the market may be shifting.
Right. We were all
there's going to be a shift. There will be a shift. We don't know when, but there will at some point.
Or at least a leveling off. There has to.
Yeah.
You absolutely can't go at this pace. It's absolutely unsustainable.
But I think what I'd like people to know is, if prices have gone up 48% in the last 2 years, it doesn't mean they're going to go down 48%.
No.
It doesn't mean they're going to go down 60%.
Right.
Maybe they'll go down 10%. And you might look back and say, if we all had perfect hindsight, maybe I would have picked this day in this month.
Right.
But even a cooling off is
still
just
fine.
that. Like, I don't want people to feel panicked. We've accelerated probably above the average.
Yeah.
So there'll be some turbulent times.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. We were talking to a client. We were following a house in Leaside, and he decided not to bid on it last week. And then when I told him what the price was, which was a good $500,000 higher than either of us thought it would go, and his text back to me was, wow, unbelievable. I said, well, the only thing is 10 years now we'll look back at this and wish we could have got it at that price. So there'll be ups and downs, and there'll be.
We just don't want to get anyone in a position where they have to sell. That's the whole key.
And that's just process of just explaining to them what's going on and where it could be, and good and bad scenarios, and
working with the mortgage brokers and making sure
everyone's on the same page, so there's no surprises.
But it's been good, right? Like, we're seeing a bit more inventory,
even in the last couple of weeks, right?
I feel like every day we're seeing
even
a bit
last
more,
night
which will
we saw
help disperse the buyer pool a little bit.
And
Today's news in the world
I know, today, with the bombing and
the bombing is very scary for sure. With all those dear people, we're so fortunate we live in this great country of ours. That's for sure. But as again, referring to our broker, who you can clearly know we all love so much, but is that he always, when we talk about our stats, and because we, again, sorry to belabor this Urbanation reports that we get, but the data is so powerful, is, Chris always says, this is kind of, based on this data research where things are going, unless something changes, unless there's a change. And, we know,
interest
more
rates.
Inventory, interest rates going up, whether they go up faster or a bit slower now because of the Russia-Ukraine situation. Of course, immigration change again, inflation interest rates, if I didn't already say that one. All of those things are changes, right? Which,
or if the government decides, because right now, apparently 50% of the properties being bought right now are either bought by first-time buyers or investors. So there's no backup property that comes on the market when those, in the old days, someone would buy and someone would sell. But now there's no secondary house to sell. So, if 50% of the buys are don't have a backup house.
Right. And I think that explained part of COVID as well, because if you look at the top end of the market, if someone didn't have to sell their family home, and they weren't necessarily wanting to go into condominium living or retirement home, they just stayed. Right. And so that was a whole segment of the market that didn't necessarily transact or come to market, which again, it kind of trickles down then, and there's less inventory
for the next person
to people
to buy.
move up.
So it will be interesting. I mean, there might be more inventory of, like Lawrence Park and Rosedale and Forest Hill, people that have stayed in their homes and haven't moved in the last couple of years. So we may start to see some inventory that will, as people get more comfortable moving into communal spaces again, whether it's a condo, if they can find a condo.
We've seen the luxury condo market definitely
Absolutely.
It's back in a big way.
Yeah, one of the hardest things to find is like a 2+ 1 bedroom condo in the city. Almost impossible.
We did another offer on Monday, which sadly we didn't get, and I felt we did a very, very good price. As did the agent say to me, Sarah, I thought it was a great price too. But someone beat us clearly, and but again, my client's saying, wow, if I bought that in December, it would have been 100 and maybe 120 less, 120 less. So that luxury market's back. So those are the people buying that stuff are going to be the big homes that are finally going to move, and we'll see that come to market. Yeah. So it's I
think hopefully it'll just be a bit more balanced. Yeah. It's been so frantic. So anyways, hopefully there'll be a bit of balance.
I think interest rates too, because I think there's so much press about interest rates. But if you think in the bigger picture, people talk about a move as being 25 basis points. But even if we had, 8 of those and they went up a full 2%, if you think of $1 million mortgage, that's about an extra $1,000 per month in mortgage. Right. So when people are buying often, $2 million, $4 million, $5 million homes, interest rates have to go a long, long way before it affects the market. Right. So I think all of these things are really positive in that, there might be a little bit of cooling from interest rates. There might be a little bit of cooling from some more inventory.
Or the fact that people can get out, maybe, hopefully, knock on wood, this summer and do some stuff. Right? Like we kind of saw that a little bit last summer.
So I think that's kind of positive in that instead of being this frenzied state, hopefully, especially for buyers, they'll have a little bit more time, a little bit more choice, and sellers will feel
some
more
sense of normalcy will be good for sure.
I would like to know that I've been the only one drinking.
No, that is not. Sorry. That's probably good.
Nobody else.
Cheers. Now we have to drink again.
Yes, please drink with me. I don't want to drink alone.
I was just going to say, we could literally probably sit here and talk all night, which is awesome. We've got a lot of points that we can do next month when we do this all over again, which is exciting.
Given that we didn't get
anyone watches it next
time, that's what we're going to talk about.
They're tapping it out of the first one. But no, this was so fun.
Oh my It's so nice to be together.
I know, it is so nice. And thank you to whoever out there is watching us. That was really, really fun. So we love feedback, as long as it's good, of course. So please send that to us.
Anything nice you want to say, let us know.
Yeah. Let us know. We do hope to plan that we're going to do this every month. So if there are other things that anybody's interested in hearing about or learning about, we're always here to share our advice. Clearly, we love to talk.
Especially about real estate.
Exactly. Don't ask us about anything else.
Nothing else.
But we'll happily talk
nothing else about anything else.
Could I just add one thing? Yes. I just would like to say a shout out to our client, Heather Shipton, who owns this amazing company called Dottie. She makes a beautiful clothing for women. And we walked in the room today, Katie and I, both wearing and representing Dottie. So
totally not planned.
No, it just happens all the time.
I had to look at my shirt to say, am I wearing Dottie? I thought, no, because I usually am. But
if you haven't checked her out, a small business, her clothes are made in Canada. She's amazing. Anyway, I thought, how incredible is that? Yeah. So anyway, I just needed to add that in. So thanks.
So, let's do an official cheers.
Yes.
To our first webinar.
Any of you long-suffering people out there that are watching us, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.